Are there advantages to aging? Yes, I am Debbi-Jo Horton, and welcome to Advantages to Aging. Join my guests and I as we discuss aging and what makes for a healthy lifestyle, which results in a quality life. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, everybody. It's DJ Horton with Miora, and welcome to Advantages to Aging. Today, I have with me Laura Folks, who for over 6 years has been transforming people's relationship to food. She started with her own journey, losing 60 pounds, and really led her to become a certified holistic health coach. So she helps her clients in making sure that you have that good relationship with food. And so welcome, Laura.
Thank you. So great to be here.
So I'm going to get us started. I'm going to ask this question. Why is it that we often have good intentions and we know what the healthy habits are, but implementing them, we're not consistent, or we just ignore it and throw it out the window? Why is that?
Yes. Yeah. So a lot of times we think that we need more discipline or we need more willpower or something along those lines. But there's typically an unconscious cycle that we're going through when we are feeling like we're sabotaging our efforts, when we're not being as consistent as we would like, and when we have those good intentions. And there's that disconnect between having the good intentions and actually following through with them, and something's keeping us from doing that. So this unconscious cycle that I find that we're often in, and I'll go through it pretty high level. There's more information about it on my website, but I'll give an overview and we can dig into any part of it that seems to make sense. So it starts with a trigger, and there are 4 common triggers that are feeling tired, anxious, inadequate, or lonely. So when feeling any of those, that's typically what will kick off the cycle. And it may not be obvious when one of those triggers is present. And also, it may not be that you have one big event that leads to the cycle being tripped off. So it might be that you have little triggers that keep adding up over time, where then it becomes like death by 1,000 paper cuts. And that's what leads you to eat. So from the trigger, we have a story. And the story was created earlier in our lives when we didn't have the full context of what was happening in the situation. And so we often made it about us. And that story is protective. It's was formed to protect us. So this whole cycle and how we're using food or just not being consistent is often a form of safety and protection. And then from the story, we have emotional stress responses. So, just like with animals that go into fight, flight, or freeze mode when they're at physical threat, we compete, accommodate, or avoid when our belonging is at threat. From there, we have behaviors. And the behaviors vary based on the stress response and the person and your story and stuff. But in general, accommodators are those that are people pleasers. They're the fixers. They put everybody else's needs ahead of their own, so they fall off of their own to-do list. Avoiders are your traditional procrastinators. So they will not take action. So they might fall into analysis paralysis and end up scrolling through social media and not following through with some of their healthy habits that they want to be moving forward with. And then competitors tend to compare themselves to others, well, whether it's their to other people's bodies or skill sets. It could also be comparing themselves to a past version of themselves. And often with competitors, they feel behind. So they feel like they're running a marathon, but the finish line keeps moving and they're just not able to catch up. So just to recap, we have the triggers, the story, stress responses, behavior. That leads us to eating out of alignment with our goals, or it could be any habit. So whether that's not drinking enough water, not exercising, not doing your meal planning, whatever it is, that ends up happening. You lose self-trust, and then it loops back into the trigger. So often when people are talking about not being consistent, or if they feel like they're falling off track, and it feels like they're kind of on this merry-go-round, but it's like the worst merry-go-round ever where you just can't get off of it. It's often that cycle is what is happening.
Well, I don't know about my listeners, but I definitely could see myself in some of those, whether it was like right now or in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't think anybody has ever brought that to my attention in quite that way. So, we talk about developing a healthy relationship with food. What does that look like? Like, those are great words, but I don't know that anybody has been crystal clear with what exactly does that mean? Like,
Yeah.
what is a healthy relationship with food?
Hey, Debbi-Jo here with Miora. Do you need relief from all of the heat? Our Youth Factor powder is packed with superfoods and antioxidants plus an enzyme blend to help your body absorb all of the ingredients. Just pour your daily drink into popsicle molds and freeze. Yum!
It's such a great question. And I think of it that there's two different prongs to that. So having a healthy relationship with food can be from a physiological standpoint. So the foods that we're eating that are nourishing our bodies, and that can be making sure that we're getting the right mix of foods for our bodies. So there's no one size fits all that works for everybody. Everybody's body will burn the foods that they're eating differently. And really what we want to get to is having your blood sugar to be balanced. Even if you're not a diabetic, it's still really important, because once you do that, you should be able to make it from meal to meal for the most part without thinking about food as much, and gradually getting hungry as opposed to getting that hangry, if you've ever experienced that. And then also your craving should decrease and you should have sustained energy. So that's on the physiological side. And that's making sure you're getting the right macronutrients. So making sure you're getting the right mix of fats, protein, and carbohydrates and vegetables for your body. So that's one side. But then there's the emotional side as well. And a healthy relationship with food to me is when we feel more neutral about our food choices. So a lot of my clients will come to me saying that they're so consumed by the thought of food. They stress about it. They have a lot of guilt and shame around it. They are overthinking, sometimes even making sure that they've got snacks, or like, what happens if I get hungry? Like, there's a lot of fear even behind it, or over analyzing to the point where they build up whether they're making the perfect choice or not, and then they don't end up eating. So what we really want to do is shift that so that the mental gymnastics, which is a lot of what I was just talking about, of overthinking, overanalyzing, feeling like you should or you must or you have to, any of that decreases. And then also being able to naturally eat for nourishment and still enjoying the foods that you're eating. So it's not that you have to deprive yourself and resist some of the food. It's more of, as you do the emotional work and heal the relationship with food, then you're more naturally able to eat for nourishment and from a place of choice. So we shouldn't be needing to rely on willpower or discipline, and it should feel kind of effortless. And a lot of people I know probably who are listening are like, yeah, right, this is not possible. And my clients will even say that too, but it is possible. And even one of my clients has had a lot of challenges with her relationship with food for 40, 50 years. She has had effortless days around food. And she's like, I had no idea that this was even possible, but it is amazing. So that's a lot that I kind of rattled off, but that's how I kind of think of having, it's a lot of more neutrality and just more of like an even more calm around food.
I like that, calm around food. And I know that even as we age, that relationship will change because our bodies are changing as well. And I
Mhm.
love the fact that you give that physiological response as well, because again, as we get older, that physiological relationship will change as well, as our bodies change. Wow, what great information Laura has provided us. I cannot wait to visit her website, which will be in the notes below. And feel free to ask questions. Laura, this has been so incredible. I love sharing this kinds of information with the audience because I know I take something away every single time I listen in. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Do you think one of the biggest advantages to aging is all the knowledge we gain along the way? Me too. What did you learn today? Share with me in my Facebook group, with the same name as this podcast, Advantages to Aging. Now hit subscribe so you don't miss all the tips to come in future episodes.